Hi, my name's Max and recently I spent 6 days in Bergen, Norway. I am just starting with this clip because it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen and the most gorgeous video I've ever shot and ever will again, probably. I just wanted everybody to see it. You will see this clip and many more beautiful ones throughout the vlog. But first, we actually have to get to Bergen. So here I am taking off from Gatwick Airport. I am not the most confident flyer. This is my second time on a passenger jet. A little anxious. Really do like that shot over the wing though. Here we are coming in over Norway, settling into Bergen. That bridge we actually go under on the cruise. And just coming into land. Yeah, there's that shot over the wing again. Bit predictable, Max, but okay. Just taking in the gorgeous scenery because I didn't look this up before I booked the trip. And the world's most gentle landing. You can't even tell when we touch down, to be honest. So good morning from Norway. It's a shame about the dirty window, but look at all those trees. This is a view I just get to wake up to in the morning for the next week-ish. Look how pretty. I continue to be the world's worst vlogger because I took some video of my flight and then I didn't take any more video of me doing stuff. But what I did do is, let me put you down. So yesterday I landed, I flew and I landed, good. I checked into my hotel, obviously I'm here, and then I did little walkies around Bergen and I got a Bergen card. And a Bergen card is basically like a tourist discount card. So I get like free travel on the light rail, discounted entry to things, free entry to things. I found food, and then I took some pictures at Brigham Wharf, but we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back because it's so pretty. So my plan today is do stuff, take pictures. I promised I wanted to do like a travel vlog. We are also doing Sail to Singularity Bingo, which will be a different video, so it's going to be two. It is about 7:30 in the morning, Norway time, England time at 6:30. Now it's going to be time for breakfast. Then we're going to head out. Bag is packed, hiking attire acquired, more pockets than I know what to do with. Let's go. We are headed off to climb Ulriken via the Sherpa steps. So first we must take the light rail. We can see Ulriken from the light rail. I picked up my tickets. There is a shuttle bus. You just pay at the kiosk and they will take you to the bottom of the mountain where the cable car is. I was supposed to climb up and then I was supposed to get the cable car down. That didn't go to plan. Look at those cable cars, absolutely terrifying. Off we go from the beginning of the steps. There is an army of kids coming up behind me and they are going to overtake me. I'm going to be embarrassed. They are like knee height to me and they're going to overtake me. Beautiful, beautiful waterfalls and stunning scenery. Can we also just note how there is a runner behind me in this next clip? Bloody knackered. But we move. We can do this. Use this weed. It's me. I can do this. Oh, look. This whole trip is me cosplaying as someone who does not, in fact, have a disability, or a few of them. Hiking a mountain was a bold choice, a beautiful one which I do not regret one bit. There were cold bits, warm bits, but many stairs. And these stairs are big too. But look at the way the light hits the trees. I'm gonna get up there. They said this was beginner. It is not. I'm hungry though, and I'm told there is cake at the top. I don't know what I thought they meant when they said 1300 stairs, but I don't think I thought they meant 1300 stairs. And up we go to the summit. I thought that was the summit. It was not. This is the only video I took from the actual summit. I was too busy taking pictures, that's my bad. Here's one from most of the way up, and then a lovely person offered to take my picture at the top because this was a solo travel. I've talked more about solo travelling as a deafblind person in a previous video, which I will link up top. And the Ulriken cake was delicious. So once I made my way down the mountain, I decided to do another thing, and I went to the Hanseatic Museum and I got to learn all about Briggen Wharf. Turns out Briggen means wharf in Norwegian, so it's just wharf, and that there is a special seat in the dining hall for the guy who buys all the beer. And yes, that big throne is the beer buyer's seat. Had a great time, and then I got home knackered, and then there's an Indian restaurant downstairs, so I went and I had I ate proper food. I am now officially well fed. Tomorrow I have a cruise booked, shitting myself. It's all gonna be fine, and I'm gonna go see some very pretty parts of the country, and then after that all the big stuff, the big stuff that I wanted to do is done, and I get to just go and be a nerd in the museums, and it can be hopefully a little less stressful and a little more relaxing. But I don't know. So my cruise is at 10:30, which is fine. This morning I turned off all my alarms and then woke up at like 5 AM anyway, so it should be fine. Should be fine, right? Anyway, I've got a hot water bottle, as unflattering as that angle is, because yes, brought one with me, and I'm gonna go to bed. It's not even 8 o'clock yet. Now, this cruise was absolutely incredible, but if you are new to sightseeing cruises, like I was, you won't know how cold it gets at the front of the boat. So I thought I had snagged a fantastic best seat in the house, and then we actually got going, and any thought I had about vlogging on this cruise, gone, because this is your headphone warning. You're about to hear a clip, which I don't have muted, of how windy it was. Just look at how beautiful it was. I have never seen anything quite like it before. I'd also never been on a boat before, and as someone who gets motion sick, anxiety, but it was incredibly smooth, just like everybody said it would be. And the locals were really friendly, so that guy caught a fish and showed it to us. I also managed to film a lot of the locals waving to us, but I unfortunately filmed them in portrait mode, and I have enough landscape to make it all beautiful. Look, here's that clip again. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, to be a bird flying through a fjord. This cruise cost me about, I think it was about £50, and it was a half-day cruise, and it was the best thing I have ever bought for myself, I think. Absolutely beautiful. There was food and drink on board. I forgot to do the bit where nothing here is sponsored, all paid for with my own money. Not really as interesting as what's going on in the scenery though, just look at that. Lots of the Norwegian flag, because going abroad is still new and exciting to me. I can understand why Norwegians are the happiest people in the world, because my goodness, just gonna take a moment of silence and quiet background music to just look at it. We've had enough from me for a minute.
And it's easy to forget that people live here. Oh, and that view of Briggan Wharf from the boat, gorgeous. And there goes my cruise ship. After the cruise, I headed down to the Brigands Museum. Here we have all the layers where it's burnt down, they've built on top of it, it's burnt down, they've built on top of it. And then this exhibit asks, what will our wall of time look like? And it's just lots and lots of plastic, where we just throw stuff into the ground. We don't make anything reusable anymore. Sad. Lots to think about. And then they had lots of things about Viking ships. So here we are travelling through a Viking ship, followed by a tapestry exhibition. Now there will be more of this in Celts Singularity and Bingo, because my goodness me. But I was obsessed with this weird horse that looks oddly sad, and I really, really want a print of it, because look at him. Just look at him. This tells a story of a handsome prince going to rescue a beautiful princess from a troll-guarded castle with the help of a horse that inexplicably wants his left hand. And then, because why not, I visited the Troll Museum. Now this one was quite a small museum, very good for kids but also great for adults as well. So let's head in to see the trolls. This is such a mixed variety of stuff, really surreal place to visit. Here is an earth or a mountain troll. Lots of little dioramas. We love a diorama. Look at all these fantastic little builds. And then they had some really cool interactive video content, like this massive troll who's seemingly trying to break into the building and eat me. Ah! And then when I left the Troll Museum, this fleet of pirate ships pulled up, followed by some Mustangs. So I was faced with the dilemma of sitting at the Mustangs, looking at Briggan Wharf, sitting at Briggan Wharf and looking at the pirate ships, or sitting at the pirate ships and then looking at the Mustangs. I did all of those. And then, inexplicably, marching band. The next day I went to the Maritime Museum. I wanted to learn all about the Vikings, which I did. We had lots of cool exhibits. There's a map of Old Bergen. We've got models and replicas of Viking boats, parts of real Viking ships, another map for the Hanseatic trade route, and then we have a piece of a real Viking ship with a 3D video thing projected behind of where that piece fits in to the Viking ship, and it holds up the main mast, which I think is very, very, very cool. I didn't think I was interested in Vikings, and then I was. And as much as I didn't enjoy the boat travel, looking at all of these really cool ships was awesome. Then I headed off to the Natural History Museum. There is a lot more of this for the Celts Singularity Bingo. I know I keep talking about it, but my goodness, there's a lot of things I ticked off that list. So here is just a selection of some of my favourite things, the things I thought were the coolest, and the things I think represents my personal museum trip. And then lots of whale skeletons and narwhal skeletons, dolphins, etc. This museum has a lot of bones and taxidermy and stuffed animals. And wet specimens, which are very cool. A bit spooky though. Here's this cool selfie that I took because I found some antlers mounted to a wall and a haul of birds. Then of course I found the rocks. I'm just a big nerd. I love rocks. Rocks rock. Next was the Bergen Transport Museum, and this is just like my dad in a nutshell. You've sort of met him in a video once, but there was classic bikes, classic cars, model aeroplanes, weird forms of transport, static engines, just bits and stuff. Now listen to this. followed by a ride on the vintage tram. Now this was brilliant. It was slightly terrifying, but not, you know, not too much. It's a rougher ride than I think the footage gives it credit for, especially because I've muted it. You cannot hear all the rattling and banging around every time we go around a slight bend. But it was lots of fun, and it was super interesting to see how people would have travelled. Here we're pulling up outside the Natural History Museum, just thought you'd want to see it from the outside. Then I went to Kunststall 314, which is an art exhibition. I didn't film much of the exhibits because it didn't feel right, but it was incredible. Finally, a visit to the Little Cat Stone and my favourite European sound. I said European, like I'm not European. We don't really have that here. We don't ring the bells to call the sailors home on a Sunday. Not to my knowledge. I did live in a coastal town that had bells and we didn't do that, but maybe I don't know. So now you actually have my face. Hello. Monday morning I went to a World War II museum, and the first time I posted this video it got flagged because I said the name of it. You can imagine. It was kind of a prisoner of war office museum, if you catch my drift. And it was quite harrowing. I didn't take many pictures. It didn't feel quite right to. I didn't want to make it weird or disrespectful, but I did take this photo. This is a photo of an inscription that sits above a doorway, I believe in their basement, which isn't open to the public, that just says in Norwegian, "This is worse than hell." And it was very harrowing, but it was a very important museum. I was talking to the guy who runs it, and he's put together this wonderful exhibit telling the stories of people after, if they got an after, and how it completely changed the lives of all of their families and loved ones. You can still see all the inscriptions that have been carved into the wall by both sides of the war. And it really is, I do recommend it. It is just, it's difficult. Highly recommend, very sensitively done, very interesting. I learned a lot, and now we're going to sensitively move on. After that I went to the Bergen Fortress Museum, which is interesting if you're interested in it. There's a lot of reading about different wars that Bergen has been a part of, but here is an Enigma code-breaking device, which I thought was pretty cool. This is much more my dad's thing, he would have loved it. This is the inside of a submarine. They had a submarine exhibit. Again, it is very interesting if you're interested in it. This is the outside of the fortress with the tower. I didn't go up the tower, I had too much on, but here's the courtyard, and these are very beautiful buildings. There's so much to explore here, there's so many things you can visit. I chose instead to go and visit Haakon Hall. Here is this wonderful ornate door. I don't know where it's for, but it's beautiful. And into the entrance of Haakon Hall. Fighting for my life, trying not to fall up these stairs. But this was a very beautiful, what used to be like a banquet hall. And you'd have like the king and that all on those thrones with the bright colours, and everyone else snacking. I think I went to so many museums I almost can't remember exactly which bit is which. Very beautiful and a very fun building to explore because it is well signposted, but also it's not. You kind of go through doors going like, ooh, what's through here? Which is very, very cool. And then there is also this wonderful view out into the wharf. Then, of course, I went to the aquarium. Now, these two fighting penguins are me arguing over whether to make a fish montage again. Here was it was like a 3D all-around sensory experience of the impact humans are having on the ocean at different depths. And then also some whales were involved as well. They were cool. Yeah, I'm gonna make a montage. Hit it with the stock background music, editing max. Right, yeah, anyway. Here is a crocodile that took one look at me, hopped into his water and started squaring up with his little nom-nom dance. If I was in the wild, I would have been so screwed. And a sea lion. Now this is my face because the only thing I had left to do was leave. The day that I flew back home, I had the whole morning to go and shop, buy souvenirs before I left on the most beautiful flight I've ever taken. Like, this is all new to me. For some people this is just normal and not that impressive, but this absolutely took my breath away. Tears in my eyes as I was leaving. I don't really have all that much more to say, to be honest. I had the absolute best time. Go to Bergen if you ever get the opportunity. Do everything. And if you liked this video, I don't make a lot of them, but you know, like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. I tell myself every month that I aim for the middle of the month, and then the video comes out at the end of the month, so I guess videos come out at the end of every month. So ring that bell so you don't miss it. Ugh, I got distracted looking at that beautiful view. Anyway, see ya.